Hey everybody, we are back. Can you believe it? We're halfway through the financial freedoms. I'm excited about it. We're dealing with the ABCs. First week we had the attitude. We talked about the attitudes, those that are the attitude we need, the attitude we don't. I hope you're really pressing in, like we've said, and being a part of those activities each week. Last week we talked about the budget and dealing with financial bondage, and I'm sure that your facilitators were really able to help you walk through some of the difficulties of just planning ahead, making sure that we are understanding Christmas is the same time every year. We can plan for it. It doesn't have to surprise us. Kids going back to school, same time every year. We don't have to be surprised when those bills come up. We can plan for those things. And so that's kind of where we've been. We're excited about it. Well, today we're going to talk about clutter. The ABCs, the attitude, the budget, and today we're going to talk about clutter and how so many times our lives get so cluttered. Physically, our houses can be cluttered, our cars can be cluttered, our calendars will get cluttered. So many different things go on with that if we're not careful, we miss opportunities. We get late on bills. All of these different things, and so today's going to be a real practical day. I'm excited about it. Again, I said halfway through. We've got two more sessions, today's, and then next session on debt. It's going to be fantastic. I'm excited about it. So you ready? We're going to go in. So let's declutter our lives. Here we go. All right, guys, here we are. We're talking about clutter today. We're talking about all of the going into financial freedom. And really, to be honest with you, so much of the biggest problems in getting into financial bondage, getting into a way that we don't understand what's going on, it seems like everything is being missed or we're not paying attention, is because simply we just aren't organized. That it begins to be a place that there's not a place for everything. And in reality, there is. We just have to maintain it. I don't know about you, but I like to go through every once in a while, not on a consistent basis, I should, but I like to go through and just organize things. I pull everything out of my garage. Whenever I clean my garage, I pull everything out of my garage. I don't just clean around some, I pull everything out, or I'll pull everything out of my storage or my workout room, whatever the case is, and then I go put it back, and I get it all organized, and I put the things back, and man, I'll tell you, when I'm done, it looks so good. Problem is, 3 months later, 6 months later, things are all piled up on top of each other again, because the real problem with clutter is not that we don't try to be organized and have that spring cleaning event. It's that we don't make it a part of our lives, that we just constantly just go through every single day, take 30 minutes, an hour, whatever the case is, and just declutter, to go through our emails or go through those things on a consistent basis and just stay clutter-free, or stay organized, so that everything has a place and every place has a thing. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, on how we can help and create margin in our lives. The Bible says there in Philippians, this is in your notes, there in Philippians, the 3rd chapter and verse 13, it says, "No, dear brothers and sisters, I have not achieved it, but I focus on this one thing, forgetting the past and looking forward to what lies ahead. I press on to reach the end of the race and receive the heavenly prize for which God, through Christ Jesus, is calling us." Now, I think this is a great passage of Scripture talking about our inner lives, talking about things that we don't want to hold on to, counting the past and putting the past aside. And you know what's so important about that is, in the spiritual way, is we don't get bound by past relationships. We don't get bound by past things. But in the same way, that can also be a good standard for our financial lives, for our relationships, for the very things around us. Several months ago, or maybe even years ago, Vicki was flipping through the channels, my wife, and she was flipping through the channels. She goes, "Oh, Jay, you got to see this." And it was an entire show on hoarders. I had no idea there was such a thing, to be honest with you. And I kind of got hooked on this show, talking about hoarders, and seeing this psychological grip on people's lives not to be able to throw things away, and how they literally had to burrow through a person's house to get to where they were at. He couldn't get to the food. She couldn't get to the refrigerator. She couldn't get to the toilet. She couldn't get anywhere because things were piled up so much. Now that's an extreme version of clutter. But in the reality, if we're not careful, that's the way it will look. So I'm going to talk to you about those ideas and some of the things that we need to ask ourselves. So I've put there in your notes some questions, and basically 3 questions here that I want you to look at to ask yourself how you do. And this is a very practical, physical example or teaching today on this area of our finances that really affects everything. Number 1, first question is ask, how do I keep my house? Do you keep your house clean? Do you keep your car clean? How do you, do you keep your office clean and everything? Are there just stacks and stacks around? Are there piles of stuff around? Or do you kind of clean, get on a consistent basis of cleaning? Number 2, the second thing is, do I throw away things I do not or cannot use anymore? The other day I opened up the refrigerator in our house, and we had some company that over the weekend, some family were in, some friends came over and everything else. And when I opened up the refrigerator, there was laying an empty baggie. Just a Ziploc bag. It was empty. It had some crumbs in it, so there was something in there. But somebody had emptied out whatever was in the baggie and just put the baggie back in the refrigerator. And I thought, I'm not going to use it, but I have no idea, 1, what was in there. Number 2, why would you sit there and just put it back in there? And yet, I think a lot of times in our life, when we don't, or we're done using something, instead of just throwing it away, we just set it there on the counter. We put it back where it is. How frustrating can it be, where you look in your snack drawer and you see a bag of chips, or you think there are, and it's really all rolled down, and there's nothing left. Somebody just didn't take the time or the effort to throw that away. I think it's really important for us to understand that when things are used up, we need to throw them away. If we're not going to use them anymore and they're not usable, throw them away. There's a third thing that you need to ask yourself is, do I give away things I do not need anymore? We all in our lives have closets packed full of clothes, I'm sure. Several months ago, Vicki and I, my wife, we went through an entire day just going through our clothes, going through our closets and everything else. And I came across a t-shirt I had when I was in high school. I graduated from high school like 35 years ago. I mean, it was crazy. And I'm sitting there looking at some clothes that I've had. They were stacked in the bottom of a basket or in the back of a shelf or drawer, whatever the case was. And I realized, and I need to give that away. The shirt's still good. Somebody can wear it, but I don't need it. I'm not going to wear it. So give it away. You see, I think that some of these questions in there is in our lives that we get all kinds of clutter. And if we would take care of the physical areas, we would start getting motivation to take on even the emotional, the social, and the spiritual areas of our life too in the clutter. When your life is cluttered with stuff, you cannot see what you have. Clutter causes money to be repelled away from us. Now, I was thinking the other day, Vicki, again, we were doing some things, and she says, I want to get my life and my clothing in such a way that I know what I have. And then she came up from her craft area. We make things and do different things in crafts and different stuff like that. And she says, I want you to build me some cubbies or cubicles to where I can put all of the different materials I have. She said, because I went out and bought something that I already had, forgetting that I had it because it was piled up on top of other things. There was some money that we spent on something that we didn't need. Now we can take that thing back, but she had already used it when she was uncovering something and realized it was there, so we couldn't take that back. But even in the event that you could take it back, even in the event that we would have found that thing when we were looking for it, realizing just the energy it took to go shopping for that piece of material, and then the energy of having to take it back simply because things were piled up and we had clutter around us, we couldn't see what we had. You see, that's what happens with clutter. It covers up some very important things. You see, if we're not, or when we're not organized in our lives, we begin to lose things. We lose bills, and then we have to pay late fees. We forget appointments or dates that we have with our friends or our spouse or our kids. We show up late. We forget to pick them up at school or a soccer game. I can't tell you how many times I had to go pick up my kids in aftercare because my brain was just all going 90 to nothing, and it was before I really got organized and realizing that. I know that sounds terrible, but we've all been there. We've all done it. You see, sometimes our relationships, we get missed or forgotten times when we're supposed to be together, and if we're not careful, we do that enough. And that just tells people that we don't care. And it's not that we don't care. It's just we're too cluttered. We can't see what's happening with our lives. Responsibility. We lose responsibility. We're late at work, or we're sloppy, or maybe it's so on top of everything that we have a big meeting or something, a presentation that we're responsible for, and we don't take the proper time that is needed for us to go forward in that, and make sure that we're right in all of our facts as we're presenting them. We're making sure that the report or the job is accurate. And we can lose those things. In that, not only the responsibility, but also we can lose a promotion. You see, late and sloppy work leads to loss of job, or definitely not being considered for the promotion that we would want, or a raise. So clutter can really begin to be something that is a very detriment in our life. So I think it's really important for us first that we go ahead and begin to declutter our lives. I'll talk about an activity we're going to have in just a moment and how we're going to do that. But first we need to start doing some of those little things that we have, and then we can begin to organize and get those things so that we begin to have margin in our life. So let me give you 5 steps to organizing our finances. Number 1, here's one thing that I've done for many, many, many years. Select one place to keep all your bills, all your mail. Whenever we get the mail from our house, or at the not the post office, but at our front door when it comes in, we would put it all in one place. Now, I know in today's day, some of us may just get all of our bills in our inbox for email. We might just get them electronically. Same principle. Don't just leave them in your inbox where 150 other emails are piled up. Don't just leave that bill that's been giving you the notification. Create an inbox or a special box that you can automatically have that bill or that notification for that bill sent right into your mail. Different mail services like Outlook, Mail if you do Apple, or Google Mail, whatever you can set up automated systems that when it sees that email, maybe it's your credit card bill and you have a Chase credit card, or your mortgage comes through and you're with Fifth Third Bank in your mortgage, or whatever the case might be. You can set up to where it automatically sees that email address and it shoves it right into that thing, so that once a week, once a month, I'll get to that in just a moment, you go into that and you know that all your bills are going to be there. Now, if you keep getting paper bills and you're old school and you get that, then you have a file. We have a file in our house that as soon as the mail comes in, we take it right into our laundry room area, and we have a file folder that hangs on our wall, and we put all of our bills there. And any paper bills that we still get in the mail, we put them right there so that we know that that's where everything's going to be. Anything for taxes, anything for that, we just put it right there for that month. Second thing that you do is do all your bills the same time every week or every pay period. Now, depending on how you're paid, maybe depending on how you do your bills. Once you get your finances in such a way that you're not living on today's money, but you're living on yesterday's money. In other words, the point is that you're being so good with your finances that your paycheck today is actually going to go to pay bills for November. Like if like right now, the recording of this, it's October. And it's in the middle of the month, so maybe you just got paid. If you get paid on the 1st and the 15th, or you get paid on the 15th and the 30th, however you get paid, like the way that happens, maybe you get paid once a month, and you're still you're basically paying your bills with whatever comes in that month. That means you're living paycheck to paycheck. And what our goal is for you not to live paycheck to paycheck, so that you have some extra, so that you can begin living in such a way. And my point to that, and why we're talking about it like that, is because that's going to determine how you pay your bills. If you're able to have your bills paid, you can literally put your bills on automatic payment, or you can put your bills on where they're paid once a month, and you can go in and just click and have them sent to them, or pay them electronically. I would recommend that in many cases. In every bank that you have out there with your bills, you can pay electronically, and it won't cost you anything, because your bank will be able to do bill pay for you. If you're old school, again, and you're writing them out, this is hugely important to do at the same time every month, so that you can just get in a routine, get in a system. It almost becomes so rote that you don't even think about it. Okay, it's the second Thursday of the month, or it's the first of the month. Sit down, I have these amount of bills to pay. For right now, I'll write out the check, put it in the mail. And the reason why I say to do it electronically, you don't have to pay for as many checks. You don't have to pay for envelopes. You don't have to pay for stamps. You don't have to, it doesn't take long, you don't have to wait for it to get in the mail. There's no forgetting about it. You can put it on there, schedule it out, and it just happens rote. But again, I really encourage you, depending on how you're paid, at least do it, look at your bills once a week or once a pay period. And once you do that, you can start getting in there. And then look at the way that bills are, do the automated. It's going to save you money. It's going to save you energy, time in the long run. And it gets one thing out of your mind you don't have to worry about. But if you are living paycheck to paycheck, or you're a little bit behind the times in paying things, because you've got more bills than you do money at this point, and you're having to figure out, robbing Peter to pay Paul, just try to figure it out, or selling some things on eBay, or putting some things out there just to make your bills fit, you may have to do it a little more often, simply because you're just paying bills as the money comes in. But that's not the goal. We want to be able to do that. But this is one of the ways that you can really organize, is always pay bills at the same time every single week, every single month, every single pay period. Third, balance your checkbook on your accounts at least monthly. Now, I know people that go in every day. I go into my accounts every single day, because I've got it automated, set up to where anything that I've spent over the last day or so will automatically download into my bill or my accounting software on my computer or on my phone. I have one that I've got it on my iPad, my phone. I can get it on my computer. And it automatically downloads. It connects with my bank. It automatically downloads. And then all I have to do is say, yep, that's right. Yep, that's right. Make sure it's in the right category for my budget. Remember, budget works out there. I know immediately when I start going over budget in certain things that I need to move some money around in those categories to do that. But you need to balance. You need to know where you're at all the time. You need to balance your checkbook at least monthly. Because guess what, guys? Banks make mistakes. Now, not very often. That's why their buildings are bigger than our buildings. That's why their buildings are bigger than our house, because they don't make mistakes very often. They charge interest. That's their business. If you make your finances your business, and you mind your business in realizing what you have, you're going to catch some of those things. You're going to catch quicker. Say you've already spent your entire food budget by the 3rd of the month, or the 10th of the month, or the 15th of the month. You're going to know that, so that when you guys say, let's go out to the buffet tonight, you're like, we really can't. We've already spent our budget for that. And all of a sudden, now you're not having to play catch up with everything else. If you just let it go out of your mind, it will shock you at how much money you spend without thinking. It's the same way as you open up a bag of Doritos, and before long, 3/4 of the bag is gone. Instead of just taking a few out, putting it in putting it in a cup and just eating just those amount and putting the bag away. You set the bag there and the whole thing's there. You just keep eating before you know it. Oh my God, I've eaten the entire bag in one sitting. That's what happens with our bank accounts. That's what happens with our money. When the entire bag of cash is gone in the first 3 months, the first 3 days of the month, simply because we haven't said, well, we need to put this about in that cup, we need to put it in that cup, we need to put it in that cup, and get it all set out. So balance your checkbook, balance your accounts, make sure you do that. The fourth thing is schedule your time. Now this might be something that is a no-brainer, but I can't tell you how many people run into that they let the day hit them instead of them hitting the day. And I want to encourage you. I've scheduled my days, I've scheduled my time for many, many years to where I don't let the day just hit me. I already know. In fact, a common thing that my wife and I will always say is the night before, I say, okay, what does our schedule look like tomorrow? When I was raising my children and I had my kids at home, every Monday we would go out to the local buffet, whether it was a Chinese buffet or, the steak buffet or whatever it is. We would go out every single Monday, and I taught my children early on, I give them each a calendar. They had an appointment book. And when they were old enough, we would, when they were young, we'd just put stickers down on some of their things. And I can remember when they were really little, they'd put a sticker and we'd say, okay, my youngest daughter's Tori, she has a school program. And so a couple of times as brothers and sisters were like, oh, I don't want to go down. I'm like, no, we're all going. We'll go as a family. Because we would schedule our time. We would schedule family time. I scheduled my work time, my study time. I schedule family time. We schedule everything. Just like you schedule your bills, if you really schedule your time, you'll start finding out where you have margin. You see, this is what it's all about in the clutter. Our calendars can get so cluttered sometimes that we end up doing things that we're doubling up on, that if we would have done it right. One of the things we learned early on to help the clutter is we go grocery shopping just one time a week or 2 times a month. We would go grocery shopping and get everything that we need. You spend less money that way because you plan out your menu. You know what you're going to cook. You can, if you're cooking 4 or 5 hamburger recipes or things with hamburger, then you can buy a bulk of hamburger and chop it down. When you're scheduling those things, it begins to happen, and then you can see yourself move in such a way that that you have this you have this plan and then you don't have to worry about being so inundated, and then your calendar gets so cluttered. So schedule your time. Here's what I do is on Sunday afternoons, I start to really put together my week. I usually have days already planned, meetings already planned, that kind of stuff. And I take about 2 hours to really focus on that. Then I wake up Mondays and I have a little bit extra time because my Mondays are a little bit wider and a little bit more free. And I just begin to take some time on that and schedule out, make sure that there's breaks in the day for me to be sharper in that. One of the things that I've done, in fact, if I'm not careful, I have somebody help me schedule because I'm not really good at knowing my capacity. Sometimes I think I could put more into an hour, more into 5 minutes than I really can. And just within the last few days, I was setting up the scheduling even for this recording right now. And so I was putting it all together, and my wife said, no, you can't, there's no way that you have enough travel time and then to be sharp enough to do this. So you need to push it back and everything. So I really realized I'm looking at it, and she was right. And so I had to rework several different things on that and make sure I was clearly communicating. You see, that's what scheduling your time, making sure that you do that. I could go on and on and on about scheduling time because that's one of my gigs I really like. So I don't want to take up any more time than we need to. But there's that. Then the fifth thing I want you to do is declutter your life. Now I have a little activity here for you to do that. And over the next 3 months, here's what I want you to do. I want you every day to walk through your house, wherever you live, your apartment, your home. If you're living in the basement of your mom and dad's house, maybe you are a mom and dad and you've got 17 kids living in your basement that you're really hoping to have them move out. start doing this, and they'll move out really quickly, trust me, is that go over for the next 3 months, you're going to do 3 things. Number one, you're going to walk through your house every single day and find 25 things that you do not need or you do not use any longer and give them away. Every day, find 25 things. If it's 25 pairs of clothes, maybe 25 dishes or things like that. 25 things that you have not used in 6 months. Trust me, if you haven't used it for 6 months, you don't need it. Unless it's June or July and it's your Christmas decorations, then maybe you've got a point there. But you know what I mean. If there's some basic things, if you've got a pair of pants sitting in your closet you haven't worn for 6 months, get rid of them. Give them to our Dream Center. Give them somewhere. Give them to somebody that can use them. Second thing is walk through your house every single day and find 25 items that are no longer usable. Gather those things up and throw them away. Cracked, that broken cup that you felt and you're like, oh, it was your favorite cup, but you never fixed it. Throw it away. Remember what the scripture says there. Forgetting what lies behind and pressing on to the future. That is a good statement, not only for our spiritual lives, but for our physical lives and the clutter of our life. Man, I'll tell you what, I can promise you would find all kinds of room in your house if you simply just started giving away the things, getting rid of the things that you haven't used or you can't use. They're just worn out. And then here's the last thing I want you to do. The third thing is list the things you value most. Just list those out. List the things that you value most. And as you begin to list those things out, that's going to start giving you categories of what you want to keep, what you need to keep. What is most valuable to you? I promise you, when you start listing those things that are most valuable, a lot of them aren't even going to be things at all. They're going to be time spent with family. They're going to be those things. That doesn't take any space at all other than space on your calendar. And when you do that, things begin to happen on that. Okay? All right, let's move on. The next thing I want is 6 areas of your life to declutter, or 6 areas in your house to declutter. This is something that's hugely important that I don't think we realize on this, okay? You must also declutter your finances. And here are some areas of your finances. The only way to know what you have is to get what you don't need out of the way. Now, especially for you that are self-employed, for those of you that may be running a business, for those of you who are out there, there's going to be some extra things in there that maybe the person that's working a job, maybe you're young and you're a student, you may not have these. So wherever you're at in this, you need to, this is going to fit for everybody, but for some it's a little bit more complicated than for others. But the first thing is get rid of past taxes. Once your taxes are filed, once all of the things that are needed, if you're a business owner, you have to keep, you're keeping receipts, you're keeping the stuff that you use for your home, because your home can be portion of that, can be used as a deduction, those kinds of things. You need to get rid of all that stuff that no longer. Get rid of taxes. In other words, you need to keep at least 3 years of your tax returns. Before that, get rid of it. It's done. You don't need to keep those. The IRS, they don't come back on you that far on that. If you're a self-employed, if you have a business, you need to keep 7 years to 10 years of taxes. Now, we live in a great, great time of innovation and technology. And this can be kept on digital files. There are programs out there. I know Adobe Scan. In fact, if you're a business owner, you have accountants, I can promise you that there are programs out there, your accountant has things where you can put it digitally. You can even digitally file your taxes, even if you're doing the 1040 EZ form where you're just filling out a couple of sheets of paper and it's done. And there's not keeping any of that. Once those are done, you've been cleared by the IRS, everything else, and everything's fine, you don't need to keep receipts. You don't need to keep all that paper stuff. So many times we have drawers filled with checks and return checks, or we have all of these things. We have email after email after email, all just closing, just cluttering up our inboxes with all of this stuff that we don't need to keep. So get rid of that. Second thing is keep only the year-end record of accounts. If you have retirement accounts, you have stock accounts, you have investment things that are outside the retirement, your giving receipt, if you're tithing or you're giving to the church, contributions, everything, all you need to keep is the one statement at the end of the year. You don't need to keep all the statements that come every month that you have. Just that one year-end statement. On your mortgage, if you come and if you have that and it's there, many times you don't even have to keep it because you can just go online to your bank account or your mortgage company, and they will have your year-end statement for your taxes on file there, and they keep those for, in many cases, forever. If not, you can get a PDF file and just put it in your file for your on your computer. Put it on a junk drive. You can put all of your files on that. There's no reason to keep all of this paper stuff around anymore. It's just not needed. But if you feel better about that, and you feel better you need paper, and you're kind of between the two worlds of technology and old school, new school, old school type of thing, then just keep the last statement, the year-end statement of each of those major accounts, and then go from there. Number three, the third thing is that if you're self-employed, keep all bills and receipts until you do your taxes. I think I mentioned that just a little bit ago, but once you do that, then discard anything that is not remotely a deduction. Just recently we had massive tax overhaul, and a lot of the deductions that we as business owners use, we're no longer able to use them. If you're not able to use a deduction on that, then don't keep the receipt. There's no point in it. There's no point whatsoever, especially in today's day where the automation comes down, and a lot of our banks and our accounting information can actually tell. If you go out, you go to McDonald's, it'll automatically tell you you spent this much in dining out. Or if you go to Jewel Osco, it'll automatically point it out and put it right into your grocery thing. There might be some tweaks that you have to do, but for the most part, you don't need to keep all those receipts and everything else. Number four, the fourth thing is throw away ATM receipts once you've put those into your bank account and you have balanced your checkbook. You don't need to keep the ATM receipts anymore. In fact, I'm to a point now where it automatically comes down within the day. I don't even keep my ATM receipts at all. ATMs, for me, always go into my cash budget because I'm pulling out cash, and that always goes for something else. And usually if I'm pulling out to put in my envelope system, whatever the case might be, I just put out the $100 of cash and I just put it there. I don't need that ATM receipt because it's automatically putting down. I transfer it to on my software. I put it in there as a cash, as far as cash account. So now I know what's in there, and then I just record it as I go with those areas, with the receipt I get from when I pay cash. So those are some ideas. Number five, keep all medical records for the entire year. Then after taxes, discard them if they do not add up to a deduction. Very few people, with the way the deductions go in this area, will have enough medical bills to even be a deduction, especially with insurance. Your insurance you can deduct, any medical bills that are over and above that you can deduct. But for the most part, most of us, we're not going to be dealing with that area, but you need to keep those medical bills in the event that the IRS comes back and says, we need to see that you really did. And as a reminder, you can always go back to in many cases now, it's federal law that our medical professionals have to have digital records. So in a lot of times, you can go back to that, but it's always best to have a backup record of that you have on there so that you don't have to, one, go to them and wait for days to get it. Then number two, in the event that it's not accurate, you can match those up. Number six, organize your personal records. Now, there's something that Dave Ramsey does that we like, that I really love, and I do this as well. We call it a love file. And this is where all your permanent records go. In the event that you were to get into an accident and be incapacitated, in the event that, that heaven forbid, that you would pass away, you need to have all of your permanent records in one place that your family knows how to get to, your spouse knows how to get to, whatever the case is, and it has all those areas. And that would include the deed to your house, all the information for your house, That would include any capital improvements and records that you've done to your house, your marriage certificate, your birth or adoption certificates, insurance policies with the beneficiaries on those, car titles if they're paid off, any information on where the mortgage is to your house, where the loan is to your car, any pertinent death certificates of family members, your parents, or things like such situations like that, veterans records, contracts, any contracts you have, any warranties on big ticket items. You have a warranty for your car, you have a warranty for the HVAC in your house. All of those things go in this area. But then there's this section that would be a love file where all of your passwords for all of your accounts are at. Insurance information that knows in case you would pass away, or that you have a major thing that happens that somebody needs to get for your insurance, they can immediately go, and we call that the love file. Because you love your family enough, you love those around you enough that in the event that you're not able to answer the questions, they can go to that file, they can get all the information you need, and everything is a seamless process. Because, you know, in reality, there's going to be times when our lives, you know, we have road bumps. There's rainy days. There's things that happen. And sometimes those days get very dark and very devastating, and we're not able to even be in an emotional place to make decisions. That we need some people to come around us to help. Or maybe you're not around anymore. And what's so difficult about those days is that they're emotional, they're hard, they're difficult. And what we need to understand is that we don't want to make it any harder on our family because they can't find the insurance policy, or they don't know the death benefit, or they don't know if you're covered on certain areas in your health insurance. They don't know what bills are around to pay, and you might be sick for some time, and several bills go by, and the insurance gets cut off because the payment wasn't made, or whatever the case might be. The car gets repossessed because it hasn't been taken care of, or I think you get my point. When we need to make sure that those permanent records are very organized and everything, and they can get to them. Now this is hard because it sounds like, oh yeah, we're going to do that, we're going to do that. And it gets to be the kind of thing where it says, yeah, we're going to do that, yeah, we're going to do that, yeah, we're going to do that. And all of a sudden the day comes where, oh, stink, I wish we'd have done that. And it doesn't happen. So that's really how important it is to declutter our lives. So it gives us margin, so we can have margin in our money, we can have margin in our calendar, we can have margin in our homes, that we can have space to be organized so that we don't miss things, that we can be the best that we can possibly be. You see, don't forget, to the scripture that we opened up with, my dear brothers and sisters, I have not achieved it. We're never always there, but we're going to go. But this one thing I focus on, forgetting what lies in the past and looking forward to what lies in the future. I press on to reach the end of the race and receive the heavenly prize for which God, through Christ Jesus, is calling us. So let's declutter our lives. Let's get rid of the junk of the past, and let's go forward so that we can be the best we can possibly be and be financially free in all of that. All right? God bless you guys. I hope this has helped. Make sure that you have a good conversation with your facilitator there, and any questions you might have that will really help you out. All right? Have a great day.